Here we are at Chargers Media Center for what might have been the final press conference in the tenure of Norv Turner as head coach of the San Diego Chargers. It's done. The team has cleaned out its locker room. The players have moved on. Craig Elston and Dan McClellan still here at Chargers Park. And Dan, we heard it a little bit from Norv, but we really heard it from the players inside the locker room and outside the locker room today. They are vehement in their defense of Norv Turner. They want the head coach to stay.
They do, and there's nobody else who wants to win a Super Bowl more than the players themselves. And that's the one thing that makes me think that maybe Turner will be back. If he is, it's going to be because of the players campaigning for him in front of the media as they've done over this last week or so.
Meanwhile, Norv, when he was talking to the media, he didn't do so in an outright way, but in a couple of subtle comments. To me, Norv made his point clear. It's really deflecting things toward A.J. Smith. The Chargers need better players.
Defensively, it's all about having impact players. If you don't have guys that can beat a guy one-on-one, that can go make a play, you're not gonna get the number of stops you need to get. And you know, it's been a hard year for all of us, and it was a tough year for Greg, but I thought he did a good job. Our players understand what this team has been through the last 2 years, and it's hard because someone said it to me. Why didn't you play this way against the first Raider game? Well, it was a totally different team. We were a different team the first Raider game. And our players have a better understanding of that than anyone on the outside. And you know, I think they appreciate the fact that we keep finding a way to compete no matter what the circumstances are.
So, Dan, I've been saying it, and I wrote it in a column here on 619sports.net as well. There are many, many, many days of the year that I would love to be Dean Spanos, or at least to be able to just call his bank and ask for a withdrawal or a transfer. But today I don't want to be Dean Spanos. This has got to be by far the most difficult week in the history of his tenure as the head of the San Diego Chargers. What a difficult decision to make, whether to keep A.J., keep Norv, fire them both, blow everyone out, bring in a new strong head coach, go with a hotshot coordinator and a first-time GM, and all of these decisions being made under the backdrop that cannot be taken out of the picture of a stadium referendum coming up in November to be put on the ballot in front of the city of San Diego.
You've just nailed it all in a nutshell there, because they can't do anything. Imagine they do nothing. What's going to happen is this season ticket base is going to erode even further. And with that, you're going to have more blackouts, and you can't have the Sunday game blacked out before voting for it on a Tuesday for a stadium. You're going to have fans going, wait a second, you didn't invest in a new head coach. You didn't invest in those great players. You didn't invest in a new general manager. Now you want us to invest in a stadium for you? Dean Spanos is going to have to spend some money and make some changes around here. Now, maybe those changes include keeping Norv Turner and letting A.J. Smith go. But I just find it difficult to believe that there's going to be a general manager going to come in here and say, Norv Turner's my man, and that's who I want, and I don't want to bring in my own guy.
Exactly. If you fire A.J., you bring in the new guy. If you fire A.J., don't you fire them as a unit? Do you fire them one or the other? If you get rid of Norv without getting rid of A.J., though, Dan, that to me is the really mixed message that you send to the San Diego Chargers fans. You're basically turning Norv Turner from your head coach into your scapegoat for what happened over the last 5 years. And no matter how much you dislike Norv Turner as a head coach or think he maybe shouldn't be the head man of the Chargers, one thing you cannot say is that the last 5 years are all Norv Turner's fault.
Absolutely not. I mean, since Norv Turner's been here, A.J. Smith has drafted a grand total of one Pro Bowler, and that was Eric Weddle, who didn't make his first Pro Bowl until last week. So he hasn't brought in the talent. Meanwhile, we've had players like Tomlinson and Breeze and just a whole host of Pro Bowlers leave this organization without getting anything in return for their talent. Now, a general manager isn't going to hit on every single decision, but when you let those blue chip players go, like a Darren Sproles, who I thought actually was the right choice at the right time, and you don't get anything back for them in return, I think you start to have to question that general manager's decision-making and his ability to evaluate players in the draft, because he hasn't been able to do that. And there's a lot of questions now going back to his early success. How much of that was him, or is it Buddy Nix at the time helping him out? You know, because when it's been him by himself, he really hasn't gotten it done.
And once again, if you don't like Norv Turner, who hired him? A.J. Smith. Who backed him throughout every one of these seasons? A.J. Smith. When you go that far out on a limb and the limb breaks, usually you fall with it. That is the physics of the situation. However, And it's bizarre for me to say this, Dan, just wrapping it up, but over the course of the last 72 hours, I've gone from the position of being, well, Norv's gone for sure, and we really got to wonder about AJ, to the position of, I really wonder if Dean makes the first decision at the top and lets Norv stay on for a couple of weeks. And if he does, isn't that maybe the right decision to make? Was Norv Turner more of an unlucky head coach than a bad head coach the last couple of years?
Well, I don't think that players have been lined up 3 deep in terms of talent, and that's A.J. Smith's responsibility. And I think maybe there's a certain decision that makes sense to me to keep Norv. I just don't know how you can do it. How you can get a general manager come in here and is going to accept the fact there's already a head coach in place and that he's got to go with that for a year or two before he gets to bring in his own head coach.
Well, Dean, this is why you, my friend, have a bank account that would dwarf either one of ours, even if you put both of ours together, we wouldn't get to 1% of your top 1%. Now is the time for the Chargers president. He steps into the spotlight, and maybe for the most important decision of his tenure as the president of the San Diego Chargers. Which direction does this franchise go? The only thing we can do is wait and find out.